This week's episode is brought to you by 1000 Hour. Enhance your beauty with their range of no smudge, waterproof colour for eyelashes and brows. Head to 1000hour.com.au to see the full range of beauty essentials and use code BEAUTY30 for 30% off at checkout. Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle and entertainment news, head to itsallher.com. And if you haven't already, check out our 5-part podcast series on mental health hosted by Amy Ruffle called Mind Time. This is an amazing series we're producing in celebration of Mental Health Month. Amy talks to 5 people about their experiences with mental health, and I pop in for episode 1 to talk about my lifelong experience with anxiety. You can head to itsallher.com/listen to hear that and the other episodes. This week's guest is Jess Eva. Now, she appeared on the block in 2018 with her partner Norm and has since become a popular radio presenter, currently co-hosting Sydney's Triple M breakfast show, Moon Man in the Morning. Life is looking pretty great for Jess now, but it hasn't always been that way. Listen as Jess talks about her childhood, why she chased her dream of being a radio presenter for 15 years, and why winning over $200,000 on the block did not change her mindset on money. Here's my chat with Jess, where I start by asking her how she's enjoying freedom in Sydney after months of COVID lockdowns have come to an end.
Oh my gosh. As adults, when do we look forward to something? Even at Christmas, we've got to cook and buy, and it's a stressful lead up to this day that normally, is fun, but fizzles out because someone drinks too many wines and has a fight. And saying that, it might be the same for Freedom Day. We all are at the pub for the first time. Who knows what sort of bad life decisions we're going to make in the moment. But it's so exciting.
How's it been for you and your family?
I'll be honest, it's been wonderful. And there's been a lot of reports about, the stress and anxiety, and yes, there has been, but the way that we had to do is we had to change our mindset. We had to turn it from something that was a hurdle in our life to we're never going to be all together like this as a family ever again.
Yeah.
Yes, my partner is a builder and couldn't work for a while, and yes, things were a little bit tied up financially, but we just tried to get to know each other better, and whether we liked it or not. But my partner went back to school. I go to work, so we're classed as essential workers. So my son went back to school for the first time today. Yeah. And he was devastated to be going back, which I saw as a positive, that we could keep him in a positive space. And also, as society and as human beings, whenever something changes for us, sometimes we think it's the end of the world. And for our children to learn the skills of, the world might change, but we're not going to die as a result of it, or change is a good thing. So for them to learn those skills, I think were something that they're going to use for the rest of their life.
Yeah, just that is such a good point, that he was obviously in a happy home for that time.
Yeah, and it was something we had to work on. I know they say don't lie to your children, but there's some days that we were really stressed out, but it's that smile and the stability that you have to give them, I think is the most important thing. And it taught them to be really positive. So that's good. So far, so good.
Can you tell me a bit about your life prior to the block? Obviously, being on a national successful TV show is going to change your life. What was life like for you prior?
So I guess on paper, my life started my parents were fantastic. My mum was a fantastic woman, but we were extremely poor. So we didn't have electricity until I was 18. And not because we were hippies, just because we had a house that was on a block of land and my parents couldn't afford to put power on it. We went to sport without shoes because we couldn't afford school sneakers as well as school shoes. We had kerosene heaters, so we'd go to school stinking of kerosene. And I guess I suppose if you were to put it on paper, there was not a huge amount of opportunity for us. If they, as in Australia, we think that, with our system, everybody's got equal opportunity, and it has changed a lot in the last 5 to 10 years. But when you see people that are struggling and have been on a long cycle of struggling, I can see why that happens, because you might not be able to even to go to netball, because netball costs, $80 for the season. You can't, my high school was 25 kilometers away, and you might have got cast in the head of the production, and acting could have been your passion, and acting could have been what you did for the rest of your life. But a lot of people that I grew up with couldn't afford the petrol even for their parents to drive them to that, to that rehearsal. So, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was the local lawn bowls club. My grandma was a member there, and I used to play lawn bowls with her. It was free. I got a free set of bowls, and I just happened to be okay at it.
Yeah.
And I ended up playing for Australia and Victoria. And it taught you that no matter what your background, if you work really hard, then things will eventually be good for you.
Yeah.
So that was a really good learning curve that I learned early.
Yeah. And so I know that you were hustling really hard and trying to get into radio for 15 years.
Yeah.
Where did that love of broadcasting come from?
To be honest, I'm not sure, but I was a really shy child. I probably didn't start talking until I was 21 or 22.
Wow.
Which sounds weird now because you can't shut me up. But I, for some reason, even when I was shy, got a job selling radio advertising in Muswellbrook, and I put a demo on the boss's desk every single day for 6 months until he gave me a little shift.
Wow.
And the one thing, and this is, we're not all naturally talented at stuff, and I definitely wasn't naturally talented at radio. And so I just kept trying and learning and opening your mind and viewing that criticism wasn't something that was going to tell you that you're not good enough. It was just something that was going to tell you how to get better.
Yeah.
And with that feedback and that, I guess you work on 2 operating systems. You work on the ego operating system or the confident operating system. Ego disallows you to ever admit that you were wrong or take in feedback, or, there's a real guarded sense of your ego being hurt. And then there's the system of confidence of, if I learn and if I persevere, then one day I'll achieve what I've set out to do. And I just tried to operate on a confidence system more than an ego system. Every time I got hurt feelings, or every time I thought someone was telling me that I wasn't good enough, they were actually probably saying that you weren't good enough, but I used it as an opportunity to say, what can I do to get better?
Yeah.
And then one day a guy was driving past through the town and said, do you want to have a breakfast show in Bendigo? And that was in 2007. And then from there, I got a job in Townsville. And from there, I quit and worked in the Maldives as a snorkel guide. And you just let life take hold, but never stop trying to get what you'd like in life. But then one day I was in Sunshine Coast doing a breakfast show, and I thought, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I have been doing it for 15 years. And so I was going to quit and start a cleaning company. And we had applied for the block, and we didn't get on the first season that we applied. And the next year, the cleaning uniforms turned up, and a week later they called us and said, you're on the block. And that changed our life forever.
And why the block? Obviously Norm is a builder.
Yeah.
What was your experience with styling? Had you renovated before?
No, I was more of a worker. So Norm had a small business and he couldn't afford to put on labourers. So I had my son, and then on the weekends, he would come with us to the work site. We'd put him in his little cot, and I would cart bricks for Norm just to try and save him some money on labourers so that we could try and get ahead.
Wow.
And then so that was basically my experience. And in our audition for the block in the video, we got our mate to follow us around, of Norm bossing me around on site, me getting these bricks out of a bloody garden.
Yeah.
And that's the only experience I had. So I couldn't even design Vegemite on toast. Well, we came last, so maybe I still can't.
And so you came last, but still won over $200,000. That's incredible.
209,000, and we were tipped to win. We got the domain cover, and we got such positive feedback while we were there. And anyone that is listening, to live in this thing where we didn't even think we'd ever get on the block. And the reason why we went on the block was to try and get some financial freedom. There was no preconceived, if I get on the block, I might get a radio show, or there was no preconceived. At this point, we were starting a cleaning company. So, but I just can't explain the feeling of doing something that you didn't think you were capable of, and then standing in front of Scotty Cam and these judges, and then hearing positive feedback. Yeah, you think, is this a dream? Like, I didn't think that I would ever be capable of it. And if anyone does have a dream, just have a crack at it, because for every no you get, you're actually one step closer at doing something that you would only dream of.
How challenging is that show? Because you watch it as an audience member and it does look pretty grueling, and the pressure that these contestants are put under looks insane.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? How did your relationship fare with that pressure? Because my fiance and I would kill each other.
Yeah, I know, right? We were really lucky with the edit, because we had some huge blues, but we were the couple that were meant to get along all the time, so they never made it to air, which was great. We definitely struggled. The workload on the block, you see the dynamic between the partners and the befores and the afters, but there's no gloss on it. You're up till 3 o'clock in the morning painting. You're working with your partner every second of the day, and you're used to only going to, really, when you think about society, you go to work and you hang out with your partner for a couple of hours and you go to bed and you go back to work.
Yeah.
So if you're still together after the block, you really love each other. But there are, I would say every couple contemplated divorce while, like, they'll say, no, we didn't. And you're like, you definitely did contemplate leaving your partner during the block.
But you're seeing the ugliest side of each other as well. Yeah.
And you're bloody tired.
Yeah.
So you're just two sleep-deprived people and unrealistic deadlines. But the payoff for that, a life-changing experience, and the chance that, like, you look at Jim and Tam last year, $966,000. Jesus fucking Christ, you know? Like, yeah.
What was it like for you when you won this insane amount of money, knowing that you were going to be able to just provide so much for your kids?
Two things. When I'm going to cry just thinking about it, but even being able to send my son to soccer, I just get so proud of that. And even he wanted to go to scooter camp, before lockdown, and for it not to even be a question is probably more gratifying and more success than I ever thought that I would be able to give my kids. But there's also a blueprint of a blueprint and a mindset of being broke and struggling, and it takes a lot longer than just a quick insertion of money to break that mindset. So you'll have money in the bank, but you're still always looking around, like a bill will come in and you get really scared. Even though you've got the money in your bank account, you'll still get really worried about that. Or there's even the risk of you put it straight onto your house, or there was these headlines. I was joking around on our radio show, but I was joking around how we blew it. But I didn't blow it. But then all of a sudden, the Daily Mail, everyone said, "Oh, you've blown your money, you bunch of bogans," or whatever.
Oh my God.
But it was the reason why I joke around with that is you almost have guilt in being financially okay, and almost
Yeah.
like you don't think that you're being a traitor to your past, but you're just so uncomfortable with being able to afford stuff now. You joke around, you can't, like, you joke around about it.
Yeah.
And
Is
it's
that
hard
still
to,
to this day, even years
yeah.
later?
So
Wow.
I'll go home to my hometown and I'll self-deprecate everything that I'm up to, or to self-deprecate, or I'll feel really guilty. And if we go out, I'll shout everything, like
Yeah.
because and that's something that I still work on, being able to accept great things that happen to you.
Yeah. Because you worked so hard for it. It's not like it was just handed to you.
Yeah, and we still work hard for it. But that's our last piece in the puzzle that I work on. Norm's fine. Norm's having a great time. But for me personally, I suffer a great deal of guilt about it. And um there's an honor when you grow up. There's sort of an honor in not struggling, but there's an honor in, working 5 jobs and working at the tomato
Mm.
fields. We worked at the tomato fields and a paper cup factory, and there is a real honor in working your ass off and not being able to spend much time. So to be able to spend more time with your children, you feel guilty for what you grew up with, and it's just a complete different change of mindset.
Have your relationships changed with friends that you have back from home?
No,
Like,
not at
they're
all.
still
That's
the
the
same?
funny
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
people
the
aren't
funny
treating
thing.
you any different.
No,
Yeah.
they're so
Okay.
proud, and
Yeah.
they're so we're and I get so embarrassed because when you go out, they'll say, "This is Jess. She's just been on. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here."
Yeah.
Where and I'm really grateful for that. Whereas I feel more comfortable if they said, "This is Jess. She works as a tomato picker." So I get really but I also love doing that. I wouldn't have it. I'm so proud of what we're
Yeah.
doing, but I still haven't been able to accept it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And now you're living your dream that you worked 15 years,
Yeah.
to create for yourself. How soon after appearing on the block did you realize that, this media career might be a thing for you now?
I'm still trying to realize it.
Yeah.
I work with a great group of people at Triple M in Sydney,
Yeah.
and I was offered a few radio breakfast jobs after the block, and I said no, and I was pretty hell bent on just starting this cleaning company for some
So
reason.
you said no even after this was like your dream
After,
for
yeah, I was sort
wow.
of, I was in this really weird state of mind, and then, but not Sydney. I said no to a few other markets, and then
Yeah.
they said, "Would you like to trial for Sydney?" And I was like, "Yes, I like that. Is unreal."
Yeah.
And I got to meet incredible people, and the guys that I do the show with, comedian Lawrence Mooney, Chris Page, the people we
Incredible.
get to talk to.
Yeah.
Life's unreal.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, it's weird.
You released a book too.
Yeah, the book is Why Wouldn't Ya? And it's basically it it's basically me trying to work out the neurological pathway and why we feel this way. And
Yeah.
there's trying to change your habits so that you're more adaptive to loving yourself and to success. And even I got a message this morning. We have a thing called an arsehole train, and that is the arsehole train is when you might go into a social situation, or you might go to work or whatever, and someone's in a bad mood, and we become this negative narcissist where we just
Yeah.
assume everybody's in a bad mood who's around us because of something that we did, but we didn't
Yeah.
do anything. And it's we're not narcissistic people, but negatively we are narcissistic because someone's in a bad mood. You're like, what have I done? Can you ask them what I've done? Hi,
Yeah.
how are you going? What are you doing? Hi, do you like me? Do you not like me? Is it something that I've done?
Yeah.
And then, for example, my boss, Rex, he's beautiful, he's one of my best mates, and one day he was in a bad mood, and I said to him at the end of the day, like, "Are you angry at me?" He's like, "Mate, I like split a vertebrae while I was surfing on the weekend.
Oh.
Like, I'm just in a lot of pain. And so, but with that, someone might be in a bad mood. Then you think that that's because of you. Then that puts you in a bad mood. Then you pass that
Yeah.
toot toot. You pass that arsehole train onto somebody else, and it's this ripple that
Yeah.
that if you can that it passes on to hundreds and hundreds of people just because one person was in a bad mood. Someone might be in a bad mood. You go home, you're in a bad mood to your partner. He goes to work, he's in a bad mood to the blokes on the work site. So that's 8 more people that you've put in a bad mood. Then they've been in a bad mood to their partners. Then that multiplies into another 20 people. And it's all because your poor boss split his disc like surfing. So if you can stop that cycle of, the ripple effect of negativity, because the first point of negativity might not have had anything to do with you in the first place, then you're able to create better choices and neurological pathways and habits for yourself.
So how do you stop doing that? Because it is really hard. We are self-absorbed beings that we think everything is about us. How do you break that habit?
Yeah, so there's this thing called the spiritual cleanse. So in order to break a habit, no matter if it's smoking or drugs, or maybe drugs is a bit harder, but like if you're trying to break a habit, thinking irrationally negative, someone might not like me, or I'm terrible at this, or whatever. If you cannot entertain that thought for 7 days. So, for example, in my mind, I swipe it to my left because negative to positive is the left. So I swipe it to the left. So Jess, or Sandra, whoever, I'm terrible. This person thinks I'm terrible at my job, example.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, that's a rational swipe. I'm not good enough for my children. Swipe. That's a rational negative swipe. You won't do it for 7 days originally because you'll overload. When it comes to habits and neurological pathways, if it looks like, because it's a physical pathway in your brain, it will start to dissolve. Now your body will automatically go to something that's dying within your body to try and quickly fix that because they think that there's something. So you will start overloading in negative thoughts, and then you start again 7 more days. No, I'm not entertaining that. Even if you think it's real, it might be real. You might be those things, but you're still not going to entertain it for 7 days. And after 7 days, you have then created a habit of thinking better about yourself, about being more positive in life, being being able to believe in yourself. So 7 days. I did, after my 3rd day, I was having an overdose in negativity, and my poor little dog, Denise, she's a Moodle. She looked at me with her brown eyes, and I looked at her and she looked at me, and I said, "Fuck off, Denise." I know it sounded like it was going to be a really inspirational story, but I was just overdosing. I even hated my dog.
Denise.
Yeah. So have a crack at the 7-day cleanse because your body and your mind is actually an arsehole. They're not your friend, and they lie to you all the time. So just because it's inside you doesn't mean that you have to believe it. You have to be really strong in not believing everything that your mind tells you.
That's amazing. So you and Norm are appearing on Renovate or Rebuild. This is a show. Some of our favourite couples from the block are competing to convince homeowners to either renovate or rebuild their homes.
Yes, correct.
So that sounds like a lot of fun. So tell us a bit about that experience.
It was really lovely to be involved in a project for meaning. So the entire sense of Renovate or Rebuild was to show that you can create these luxury, gorgeous houses while still leading a really clean, a really light-filled, healthy lifestyle. So it focuses on, like, for example, you're paying a fortune on electricity just with your heating and cooling bill alone. So 80% of the heat that we lose from our house, which costs us a bloody fortune, is lost through our windows. So there's windows out there that I didn't even know existed that keep all your heat in and keep all of the sound out. Save a fortune. Tick.
Wow.
If you've got polished concrete floors, It feels like your polished concrete floors are heated in the winter, cool in the summer. It doesn't cost you a cent, because it's these systems that have been used for hundreds of years, but in the last 80 years we forgot about them.
Yeah.
So it shows a way that you can live a much cheaper lifestyle by not plugging everything into the energy, like into your power points.
Yeah.
Getting a bit of solar, having these luxury gorgeous houses, and teaching people, how they can have a great lifestyle but also have a responsible lifestyle at the same time.
Yeah. And you and Norm went up against Andy and Deb.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we also got to learn heaps of stuff as well with them. So, for example, every time you have a 15-minute shower, it costs you $1. Did you know that?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
And every time you put your roast in your stove, costs you $1. So every time you buy roast, you got to also look, okay, well, that's that, and there's the extra price. Like, the cost of things are unreal. So it was really nice to work with Andy and Deb while we pitched to renovate or rebuild, to learn about everyday expenses and everyday things that you can cut down on.
Yeah. You just really don't understand your own footprint, do you?
No. And you can look at it both ways. If you care about the earth and what's happening, that's a really good incentive. Also, saves you heaps of cash.
Yeah.
So I feel like no matter where your passion point is, you're going to benefit from watching Renovate or Rebuild.
Yeah. So that is on Monday, October 18th, which is tomorrow.
That's when we're going to be on.
Yeah, 9 Life.
Yeah, you can watch it whenever you want after that, but if you want to watch us, it's on the 18th.
Yeah.
Do what you want. I don't know.
So we're all about making life simpler and better for women.
Yes.
How do you make your life simpler and better?
I try and I was just speaking about this to a girlfriend. I have tried to improve I feel like the core of all of us, especially with women, are our relationships. So partner, children, friends. And I've tried to love and live as honestly as possible. And the one thing I've started doing over the last couple of years is looking at intentions over words. And I think that life sometimes gets so complicated we get upset because someone that we really love, being partner, friend, whatever, has jumbled up their words and said something that's upset us.
Yeah.
If we take a back step from that and look at the intention, then we should never be complicated with our relationships ever again.
I love that.
So it's really helped me out.
Jess, thank you so much for joining us this week. And we'll put all the links so that people can watch Renovate or Rebuild. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks for having me, Jordy. Love ya.
Isn't she awesome? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her, the podcast. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen, and I'll be back in your ears next week.